Hi, it's Marilyn Maceri, your consciousness coach, back again for another episode of Conscious Awakening. We're here again with Pawl-Gierak. Today we're going to be talking about another complementary law that goes with the law of attraction. This one is called the law of allowing, and it's very, very wonderful, and it really brings great information, and it aids in the manifestation process of the law of attraction. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you again for coming back and bringing your beautiful information and wonderful energy to this program.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Well, this episode is going to be about the law of allowing, which really has two parts to it. The part about allowing other people to be who they are, and the second part is about allowing the universe to work effortlessly through our lives.
And that is a difficult thing to do, because as human beings, we have always been taught to be in control. We have to be in control. It's important to be in
Yes.
control. And the law of allowing is quite the opposite. It's actually breaking down that resistance and breaking down that in control thing and allowing the universe to do what it's supposed to do to provide for you.
When you look at nature, for an example, a flower that's opening, or grass, blade of grass, blades that are coming up, they do it effortlessly. They don't stress about it. It's not a stressful thing. It's not something that takes a lot of effort. When you look in nature, nature just flows and matures and energetically is just in perfect divine order. And it just is. And people who, like you said, want to control everything, we get in the way. We get in our way of our good that's trying to come through effortlessly, but we want to like make it a certain way or manipulate it to look this way, or it has to look that way. When really that's not what the law of allowing is at all.
Being raised in a society where we want our families to be accepted and nurtured and growing, and which really isn't where they're going to get that from. They're not going to get that from society. They're going to get that from allowing them, and you allowing them to mature and grow and develop accordingly. So I think that's the first place that I start when I think about the law of allowing, because it's in my face all the time with my children, and taking a step back and going, okay, I have to allow them to do this because they're going to learn. It's not my learning, they're going to have to learn. I've done my learning, and now they have to take the next step to figure it out, is how that works for them, because it may not work for me, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work for them.
Exactly. And now what you're doing when you're allowing is you're not resistance. You're in a state, in an energy of non-resistance. And that's what allowing, the law of allowing, is all about. When you resist something, it persists because you're sending it energy, you're giving it energy. You're saying, nope, it's not supposed to look like this. Okay? Really what it is it's judgment. Judgment is the opposite of allowing. When you allow, when you're in the flow, the natural flow, just like the flower that is blooming effortlessly, when you're in that flow of effortless learning, effortless growing, effortless allowing, there is no resistance. But when you look at something or someone and you say to yourself different things like, they shouldn't be that way, or look at that, or why are they doing that, or they shouldn't be doing that, that's putting a judgment on them, and that's resisting who they are and what they're doing. So that's a friction. It's actually a friction. And it's actually part of tolerance. You may not say anything, you may be tolerating the situation, or you may be tolerating that person's behavior, but you're not really effortlessly allowing them to be and lovingly allowing them to be who they are. There's a big difference in tolerating and loving. So in the law, by using the law of allowing correctly, it's loving, not necessarily agreeing with. I'm not saying we have to agree with. A law of allowing is not about agreeing. It's about allowing them to have their own way of thinking, to have their own way of doing things, and loving them in that process.
Well, oftentimes we impose our perception of what we think is the right way to be or the right way to act, or what, that shoulda, woulda, coulda, kind of judgment. And it reminds me of a story I remember one time that there was a man who was on the subway. And there was another man on the subway, and he had 3 children. And they were just acting out. They're jumping on the seats, they're running around, and the man's just kind of sitting there like this and not even responding to the fact that his children are acting out, okay? And the man sitting next to him is giving like all this judgment, going, I can't believe this guy. He's not controlling his kids. He needs to control those kids. Those kids are acting like crazies, whatever. And all of a sudden, the man turns to the man next to him and he says, please help me figure out, how do I explain to my children that their mother just died? So now the man who was making the judgment on this family realizes that his perception was not a part of this package. He didn't allow this man to just kind of be, not that I'm saying, let all the kids run wild, but it's your perception of what that person's doing in their life that you think, or you're making the judgment call on, that's right or wrong or whatever, instead of stepping back and saying, you know what, this may not be the way that I would do it, but there's something to this person learning whatever this process is that's around them, and letting go of that fear or that judgment or any of the negative emotions that come up when you're in the process of allowing.
Absolutely, Michelle. That's a beautiful example of how someone's perception causes it to be a judgment, which is in a resistance. He was resisting what he was seeing. He was putting his own ideas into the situation about what it should look like, what these children should look like, how their behavior should look like, what this man, their father, should be doing, how they should be disciplining. It's all about the shoulds. And you know what? That's totally opposite of the law of allowing. The law of allowing says lovingly see what's happening and allow it to happen as their experience. It really has nothing to do with him. It's not about him at all, this man who was judging. It's not about him. But he made it his business to make it about him, when really it's not about him. And, we all do it. It's part of the human condition that we've been taught that things should look a certain way, that people should behave a certain way. Society tells us if you look a certain way and don't look a certain way, that one is right and one is wrong, and that's totally opposite of the law of allowing. The law of allowing says you are perfect exactly the way you are. I am perfect exactly the way I am. And in that allowing, it relieves all resistance, and it allows good to come into your life. The freedom
Of, like, it's not on my shoulders anymore, and you can
I don't have
that cleansing breath.
I don't have to control the world.
Exactly. And, understanding that every soul, even the ones that are immediately attached to you, have a purpose on this earth, and you don't know what that purpose is. And the purpose they may be fulfilling for themselves may be something that's really to the left of what you raised them to be, or what family you came from, or what friends you hang with, that kind of, or it could be very much on to the right, just the opposite. So somewhere between there, because this life is a constant learning to reconnect to source energy. Mm-hmm. It's a constant process, and nobody's perfect at it. And every day you have to take a step back and allow the lack of judgment or the lack of worry or the lack of fear, you have to get rid of the negative aspects of what life can impose on you to find the freedom to say, that's really not, I'm not attached to that. I hope it works out for that person, but it's really not my issue. It's not. So I'm just going to send love. We go back to that same thing. You just kind of send some
it's
love.
All about love,
and it's
Michelle.
very hard to do without question.
Because judgment energy is so hurtful and so damaging and so heavy and thick and dense. But when you switch it and you just send love to the situation, to the person, to the people that are involved, it shifts you in here, and it lifts your vibration into a loving vibration, and that is radiated out, and the situation, the people that are in front of you can feel that, and is automatically shifted. The energy is automatically shifted.
You know, it's interesting because we get tied up in so many other people's business that's really not our business. Mm-hmm. Thanks to social media, thanks to things like Facebook, and people do these judgments, and then all of a sudden they're being condemned for the judgments, and then everybody's and all they're doing is the negative people are if you notice, the minute that first negative person makes a negative, if you follow the track, you'll see negative, 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 and then finally someone usually will say, okay, that's enough, let's go here, or whatever. But it's so immediate, and people make judgment right away. And instead of saying, gee, this person's going through a lot, and we really, I always often answer, let there be peace. I hope you find peace. I hope you can find the balance. I hope you can find the harmony. And, that I've had my say, because as humans, we want to have our say, but it's not a judgment say. It's a, you know what? You're on a different path, and it's okay. Maybe we don't all agree, but it's still your path. I don't have to be a part of that drama.
It brings me back to the flower. If you've got a rose and it's a bud, do you sit there and watch it as it unfolds, saying, wait, you're doing it wrong. Wait, you've got to do it this way. Wait, this petal over here is a little lopsided. You got to wait, and you got to even it out. You got to balance it. Do we do that? No. We allow the flower to effortlessly bloom into this beautiful, glorious, natural gift that it is. Why can't we do, or why don't we do that with other people? Why don't we do that with other situations? And that's what the law of allowing is telling us to do.
Absolutely.
Get out of the focusing on all of the doing it wrong and, that type of situation. Go into just loving it, allowing this person to unfold, allowing the situation to unfold, and loving the beauty of it, just like nature. So the second part of this law, the first law was about people in your life and situations. The second is about the universe. Letting go. When you have an intention, and like the law of attraction, and we also talked about in the last episode about the law of deliberate creation. When we are in that process, the law of allowing is what allows the universe to then bring it to us effortlessly, without manipulation, without trying to make it happen, or you've got to do it this way to make this happen. None of that. It's just like the flower opening effortlessly. The universe will bring to you your intention effortlessly when you release and let go and allow it to do so.
You have to let go of control.
Exactly.
There is no law that says, well, we'll give you this, but we won't give you that. You can ask, and if you believe and ask and allow it to just flow, it will vibrate the right way. You don't have to control going, well, it's got to vibrate faster, slower, quicker. You don't have that control. You just let it go. And that term, let God, let go and let God.
Exactly.
And again, there we go back into the religious thing. But you know what? Whatever your intention of that power, or that universal energy, that primary soul purpose, you don't have to control it. You don't have to.
But I'm not really sure. You said something about it being human nature. I'm not even sure. I think it's a conditioning. I think we're taught. Our society teaches us to be in control.
I think you're probably right, because as babies we certainly don't control anything, do we? We learn to control
We learn
things.
to control.
That's true. Good point.
And in nature, there is no control. Nature just is.
Right.
The universe just is. Everything's neutral until you put a judgment onto it.
True.
When you judge something, you are putting a label on it. And it goes from being neutral to something, like you had said earlier about your perception. Your perception changes the neutrality into something that you project onto it. That's why there's so many different thoughts, because everyone has a different perspective. There's so many different ways of being. There's so many different religions and political views and ways of doing things, because people project their thoughts and their intentions onto another, try to put it onto another person as I'm right and you're wrong. And there, in nature, in the universe, there is no right and wrong. It just is. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinions. Everyone is allowed to have their own thoughts and their own perception. That doesn't mean you have to agree with me and I have to agree with you.
No, that's let's agree that we don't agree. And that's an acceptable statement.
That is.
Absolutely, because everybody's not going to agree on everything, except the one thing that we should all agree on, and that is to allow someone their own perception out of love.
Exactly. And, you know, I want to be loved for who I am. You want to be loved for who you are.
I want to be loved like you.
No. And I want to be loved like you. No. So, but it's all about sharing each other's positive points.
Absolutely.
Loving each other's goodness. Seeing the good in other people. Not focusing on the things that we want to change in them or we think need changing, because really nothing needs to be changed. People are perfect the way they are because they're going through exactly what they need to go through to learn, to grow, to raise consciousness, to lift, to evolve. We're here to evolve as spiritual beings. And so in that evolution, people are going through exactly what they need to be going through for that evolution, for their soul. It has nothing to do about anybody else.
You know, you just hit a chord with me again. My daughter was over last night for dinner, and she was having her own personal meltdown, okay? Because she said to me, everyone wants me to be the person I was when I was in high school or when I was in first years of college, she says, and I have evolved so much farther than that, and I just don't think they accept me. You know, it only resonated with me now that we've had this discussion. And I thought, gee, that is insightful that she feels that she's
Absolutely.
evolved to wherever she has been. But more importantly, is she creating judgments of her own on everyone around her?
Yes, she is.
Which is disallowing them for loving her for who she is. That's a huge part of the development of allowing, is to allow herself to be who she's developed into and not have a perception or a decision on how other people perceive her. Hello, Marilyn, thank you for sharing that.
As we evolve, sometimes our friends don't evolve at the same rate. And that just means that maybe it's time to move on, to find friends who are where we are now.
Right.
You know, and so it's not a good or bad, right or wrong thing. It's just, who do you want to associate with? So her soul is telling her to move on beyond these friends who she feels judged by.
And a lot of that is due to the fact that they're not allowing you to be who you are, or you've chosen not to allow them to be who they
and
are.
it's usually a two-way street.
That's true.
Somebody else's judgment, you're judging them for judging you.
There you go.
It's like catch-22 kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know. So in being and allowing is like, it's okay that you have this opinion of me. It's not a reflection of me. It's your perception of me.
Right.
It's like when they say, what's that phrase? What you think of me is none of my business.
Right. What you think of me is none of my business.
That is really a powerful statement, though, if you really think about that, because it's a form of allowing. It's okay that you think of me the way you think of me. I can't change that, and I shouldn't want to change that. I am who I am. When you're strong in who you are and you believe who you are and you're in an integrity with who you are, it doesn't matter what other people think because you are being true to you. That's the only person. You go within and you allow yourself to be totally and completely who you are. And that's the gift in allowing. Truly the gift. Because it really brings forth a love for yourself and a healthy love for who you are. And it just eliminates all the outside stuff that we feel we need to control and people we need to control. It just eliminates all of that.
Well, that seems to be the total of that entire law, isn't it?
It is. It is. So letting go, allowing the universe to work through, to do and give us our intentions by, again, asking, believing, receiving, and acting when we're guided to act. And we're in the flow. When you're doing that, you're in the natural flow, just like the flower opening naturally. It's a natural flow of energy. When you're allowing a natural flow. We're connected with source of all that is. We can never be separated. Only thinking creates a thought that we're separate, but really we can never be separate. So, consciousness, to me, is like a fish in water and a fish saying, "Where's the water? What is water?" Consciousness for us consciousness is all around us. We're in consciousness. And when we judge something, when we see something a certain way and put a judgment on it, that's taking the energy and focusing and manipulating it. But when we allow consciousness to be, consciousness meaning all that is, all that's been created, and see it as neutral, it's so much easier to allow the flow and to be in the consciousness of all that is. Just like the fish is in the water, we are in consciousness all the time. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your insights and your ideas about the law of allowing. So thank you again for tuning in to this wonderful episode all about the law of allowing. Some great information was shared here. Please remember to listen to these videos over and over and over again for effortless learning, effortless growing, and understanding. Because when you listen to them over and over again, it goes into the subconscious mind and you begin acting and your life unfolds effortlessly. Because these are such powerful laws and the information is so, so powerful. So thank you again. This is Marilyn Maceri, your consciousness coach, saying goodbye for now. We'll see you next time. Thank you.